And just like, look at the timing on this guy. We are now joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. His name is Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, huge win today. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a huge win. You now this entire week, and I guess you could still technically consider tomorrow's game as part of the week, but I tend to look at weeks from Sunday through Saturday. That's just the way I always will. And this week ends with the Flyers going 2-0-1 against three really good teams. To me, I thought the big story, and obviously we'll get into the other big stories because there are a few, but to me, the big story of this individual game is the Flyers' defensive play. I mean, they hold the Bruins to 20 shots on goal. And look, the Bruins aren't an offensive dynamo, but they're certainly better than getting 20 shots on goal. The Flyers, I thought defensively, and this isn't taking anything away from Sam Ersson, who I thought played a really good game, made some really big saves at key moments. But for you to hold the Bruins to 20 shots on goal, you need to be playing a complete team defense effort. And the Flyers, I thought in all three zones, really with the sole exception of that one play where they tie the game when everyone is puck watching, I thought this was an extremely diligent, tight checking effort by everyone. I mean, Owen Tippett was back checking like a demon the entire game. He had that one shift where he basically forced 2 turnovers by back checking. But I thought it was everybody. You know, Eric Johnson has that amazing starfish play that sends the Flyers going the other way. Travis Konecny pointed it out after the game and basically said, you know, I don't think you guys understand how big of a play that was because we broke down defensively on that play. Like, we screwed up and he bailed us out. Eric Johnson bailed us out with a ridiculous play, and everyone out there, everyone on the bench could see the mistake that was made, and instead we're not talking about it because Eric Johnson makes a really good play. I just thought on the whole, the team played an extremely committed style of play. And it still was close. Obviously, they still have to get the dramatic goal by Tyson Forester to win the game late. But they're not in position to have those kind of heroics if they don't have the kind of team defense that they had pretty much the entire game, with the exception of that one bad play.
Hey, Charlie, JP over here. So with that, because we were talking about that as well here. So would you say that Sam Ersson was good today, or did the defense just step up? Because I still thought Sam Ersson looked really good there today.
Well, I think the answer is yes. It's not an either or. I think Sam Ersson had a good game. I think he came through, especially in the first half of the game. You know, he had that one sequence where he made 2 fantastic stops on James Van Riemsdyk. He made big saves at key moments. When the Flyers dipped a little bit, he was pretty much always there to bail them out. So I think Ersson was really good, but you have to note that he only faced 20 shots on goal. And the reason why he only faced 20 shots on goal is because the team defense in front of him was really good. So I think it doesn't have to be an either or. It doesn't have to be either it was the defense or Ersson. It was a little bit of both. It was a full team effort in this game. And that was the only way they were going to be able to beat a team like Boston. I mean, Boston comes into this game with the most points in the NHL. I personally don't think they are the best team in the NHL, but you certainly can make that case if you're just purely looking at the standings. Hey, the records are the records. The points are the points. The Bruins are a really good team. And the only way the Flyers are going to beat really good teams the rest of the way, and this is going to go straight into the playoffs, assuming they make it, is these kinds of complete team efforts. And that's exactly what they got today.
No, we talked about the defensive effort earlier, Charlie, and just looking at what this team has on defense. You know, 2 guys who basically have been here all year as your top pair. Zamula, who's been here, but now he's playing with a brand new partner. And then Ginning and Adard, who are, like 8th and 9th on the depth chart, if you want to say that. And we've seen this team kind of have its bumps and bruises over the last few weeks, and the schedule obviously not all that forgiving. But you see an effort like today, and do you think maybe there's just some chemistry building, people figuring out what exactly they're supposed to be defensively, that they're going to be able to replicate this and keep this thing afloat until maybe they get some defensive reinforcements back?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. Look, do I think there's some chemistry being built? Yeah, I do. I think Zamula and Johnson are probably getting a better handle on each other's idiosyncrasies in terms of how they play. They're probably building some chemistry, some rapport. The Ginning-Adder pairing, they have a lot of experience together in the AHL. It's a different beast in the NHL, to be sure. The players are stronger, the pace is faster, the forwards have more skill. So there's certainly an adjustment there, but there's existing chemistry between those 2 guys. To me, the big difference, if I had to compare this to a game they played recently, This, in my mind, was the closest thing to the Florida game. The Florida game where, they go into Sunrise, they win that game. It was same thing where it's a late goal, not quite as late this time, but still a late game winning goal, a tight game. But to me, the reason why the two games were so comparable is because in that Florida game, you saw the forwards do so much to back up the defensemen. The back checking was great. The checking in the neutral zone, like they were forcing the Panthers, a really skilled team, to go the length of the ice every single time and basically just have to go through waves upon waves of checkers, forwards and defensemen. Look, if the Flyers leave this defense core on an island too often, you're going to see what you saw at the end of last week, which is 2 straight games of 6 goals allowed. Like, that's just a fact. And I don't care how good the goalies play. This defense is not good enough to be left on an island to hold down the fort. They're going to need help. And I thought tonight was the first time since that Florida game where I saw the forwards provide all the help that they're going to need to provide if the Flyers are going to keep winning games. Like, in my mind, that was the comparison, and it's what's going to have to happen. Because, again, this defense core isn't good enough. And, like, also, you could say, well, they have to hold down the fort until reinforcements. Like, even when the reinforcements come back, like, look, I'm not saying Nick Seeler hasn't been real good for the Flyers. Nick Seeler is not a game-changing defenseman. He's a good defenseman. He's better than most of the guys that are on their blue line core right now. But it's not like he's an all-star. Jamie Drysdale, if he comes back, great. But it's not like he was playing all that well before he got hurt. Like, we were talking about how, well, next year will be when we'll really get to see what Jamie Drysdale is. Rasmus Lehinen, I mean, yeah, he would help, but I have no idea if he's going to even come back. Like, he's been gone for so long at this point. So, to me, it's less about holding down the fort and waiting for some help. Yeah, guys like Nick Seeler and Drysdale and Risto would help. But even if one or more of those guys comes back, they're still going to need the forwards to really, really help out the defense. And I thought today that's exactly what happened. The forwards were everywhere in terms of providing that help that this defense core is going to need the rest of the way.
I want to talk about one of the defensemen specifically, Igor Zamula. Now, I don't think he got every shift against David Pastrnak, but let me see if you follow my logic on this one here, Charlie. We talked last show about Morgan Frost taking possession of the power play. Like, someone had to do it. Someone had to step up and just go, this is my thing. And it looked like Morgan Frost was kind of building up to that. You talked about him demanding the puck the last game and the bumper and all that. We know how Pasta has owned the Flyers. And maybe Zamula is the guy who kind of put his hand up and said, it's no longer fucking point state for you. 5 minutes into the game, he takes an interference penalty against Pasta. And honestly, do you want to be on the penalty kill? No. But I really liked him putting him on his ass, even if it's a little late, even if it's interference. And they held him off the scoreboard again today. A couple of days ago, I saw this quote, I think it was on Kevin Kurz's Twitter, from Igor Zamula. When you're playing the first time against new players like Crosby, Matthews, or whatever, you're like, okay, I need to slow them down because these guys are very skilled and very good. But now I'm like, fuck it. I'll go play against them. It's a dream. It's fun. Do you think Zamula maybe is that guy who was kind of a catalyst to, like, we're not backing off him today. It's no longer points day. What did you think of his effort against Pasta today?
Yeah, I thought Zamula was fine. And looking at the shift charts, obviously, it was the Sanheim-York pair that got the bulk of the Pastrnak matchup. Sanheim had 925 against them. York had 849. But then you have Eric Johnson got 633, and Igor Zamula also on that pair got 548. So that pair was very clearly the secondary pair that was getting that tough matchup. I thought Zamula, kind of talking about like the entire team having a strong defensive effort, I thought Zamula had a really strong game with the exception of one bad shift that leads to a goal. He gets beat on Boston's first goal, lets that pass go through him, and honestly, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that guy's name because I know I'm going to mess it up. I wasn't watching the game on tape. I do not even know how to go with what Brazo. I don't know, whatever. But it was a good play, and Zamula got beat. It happens. He's a young defenseman. On the whole, I thought he had a strong game. I don't quite see it as that dramatic as maybe you do about, Zamula stepping up against Pastrnak. I like the fact that he's not backing down against these guys. I like his attitude. That said, the bulk of this matchup is still going to go to guys like York and Sandberg. I mean, this is who they're leaning on. They did do a better job today of, spreading out the minutes a little bit, knowing that they're going to be playing again tomorrow early evening, I guess, at 6 p.m. You can't run necessarily Cam York and Travis Sanheim into the ground the same way you could if they had a day off the next day. But they're still the guys who are going to have to shoulder the load in terms of shutting down the David Pasternaks, the Matthew Tkachuks, the Artemi Panarins. Like, that's going to be them. It's nice, though, that Zamula can take 6 minutes against Pasternak and not get completely killed, though. That's certainly a positive development, not just for Zamula, but for the Flyers as a whole.
Hey, Charlie, let's talk about one of the big storylines here. Sean Couturier back into lineup. Obviously big. Fans were happy about that. So his return, 13:09 on the ice. Couple shots, couple opportunities. What you see with Coots today?
I thought Coots was fine. I don't think he was unbelievable. He certainly had some good moments. I thought Lixell was really good on that line, and Couturier kind of served as something of a facilitator to Lixell, who really was rolling today. This was one of, I think, Lixell's better games. But I think this was, in my mind, your normal, perfectly fine Sean Couturier game. It wasn't like he responded by taking over. It was just a normal, good Coots game. And, his underlying numbers, they're fine. He's about 50% by expected goals, actually about 72% by Corsi for, which makes sense. Flyers had the puck in the offensive zone a lot with that line on the ice. And there was that one shift in the third where I think Boston had 2 rebound chances against Couturier. I know that expected goal formulas tend to rebound chances have a high value with expected goals. If you get one chance after another chance after another chance, those tend to be viewed as, very high value plays. So I think expected goals probably does underrate the quality of Couturier's game in this one, because those 2 rebounds are obviously always dangerous, but I think Arison mostly had the angle cut down. It wasn't like a terribly scary play for the Flyers. I thought Couturier was good. I don't think he was great, but I thought he was good. And, John Tortorella gave him some praise. He acknowledged that he had a good game. He clearly was not interested in going into a lot of detail about it. I asked Sean Couturier specifically after the game if he had a better understanding over the last few days, if he gained a better understanding of what the Flyers and what John Tortorella was looking for from him. And Couturier more or less said, look, I don't really want to talk about it anymore. It is what it is. We got 5 to 6 points over the course of this week. I'm happy to be back in the lineup. I'm willing to do whatever's best for the team. He more or less just tried to, I guess, not dodge the question, but more or less try to throw some cold water on the concerns. That's not to say that there might be stuff going on behind closed doors. I'm sure Couturier still isn't super thrilled with John Tortorella, but I thought it was important that Couturier played ball today. He clearly showed Tortorella some of what Tortorella wants to see from him. So he's pacifying the coach on the ice, and off the ice, he was extremely diplomatic, which wasn't necessarily a tack he took early in the week when, he basically opens up the day of the scratch and says, I don't really like how I've been treated. And then later that night, his agent talks to Kevin Kurz and more or less echoes that. It does seem like Couturier, after that initial frustration, he is now publicly taking the more diplomatic tactic, which John Tortorella is very much going to like from his captain, I'm sure. So we'll see where this plays out. We talked to Erik Johnson after the game. I asked Erik Johnson, look, I know you're new here, but do you think, knowing what you know about coaches, that this was something of a motivational tactic, not just for Couturier, but for the team? And Erik Johnson said, look, I can't speak to John Tortorella, but yeah, sometimes that can be an aim for a coach. And the team defense has played a lot better over the past week. So is there a correlation? I guess that comes down to your interpretation of the situation. But at least right now, John Tortorella got the desired impact. Sean Couturier came back, played fine, was diplomatic in public in terms of his responses today, and the team defense has gotten better. So we'll see how this plays out over the long term. In the short term, it's working out for the Flyers.
Say what you will about John Tortorella and his people skills. 5 out of 6 points at the toughest point in the schedule. What can you say? Charlie, 2 things for you before we get to 3 stars real quick. First, we have a super chat from Go Away YouTube. He says, I'm paying $2 to show Charlie how much I appreciate him. I agree. Charlie is worth at least $2. Now, I guess last important thing to talk to you about today, Charlie, Travis Konecny, a pair of goals. He has 3 in the last 2 games. My question is, how much credit do I deserve for calling him out for never having scored a meaningful goal for this team, and now he's done what he's done? Should we not maybe think about putting the C on me for a week or so?
Then you're going to get benched.
Bill, do you really want to be the captain? You've seen what's happening to Sean Couturier after he gets the captaincy. I don't think you want to be the captain. The C is actually the scarlet letter in John Tortorella's world. You would love days off. Fair enough.
I am nowhere near the competitor that Sean Couturier is. I'll tell you that right now.
No. Okay. I guess Couturier was still getting paid for those days he didn't play, so there's that. It's not like it was an unpaid suspension. He just didn't have to skate. Cool. No, I do find it funny that Travis Konecny starts scoring immediately after you call him out for not scoring in big games, going all the way back to the bubble playoff run. As I talked about on that show, I just think, number one, he was probably rusty, but number two, I think he's probably still playing through something a little bit. I think he likely came back maybe a bit earlier than he would have otherwise, given the place the Flyers are in the standings, how difficult the schedule is, the fact that they have a chance of making the playoffs for the first time in 3 seasons. So it does seem like he is getting back to his old self. Also, he's getting some bounces. Like, that second goal he scored, good play by him. Ullmark probably should stop that. Like, that was not a snipe in the same way that the Forester goal was. Like, the Forester goal was just a hell of a shot. The Konecny goal was like on the ice that just barely slips through. Like, hey, you got to shoot to score, and Konecny was making plays all day today. But he's also getting some bounces, which happens when you're doing the right thing. So I love that he's sticking it to you personally. I find that very funny. However, I do think this is more about him getting some puck luck, and also the fact that he's probably feeling a little bit better because he probably came back from that injury sooner than he would have in a lost season, for example.
Charlie, I'm Lou Brown. I want him to stick it to me, That's just what we're looking for. Before we get to 3 stars, Gritty Ross says, bidding war for Charlie and go. Super chat of $6. So I don't know if you have to go on a date with these people or what happens. Charlie is in a relationship though, so don't expect too much.
PHLY Flyers
maybe first base. I mean, it's first base. All right, Charlie. It is time for today's 3 stars of the game, leading off with star number 3.
Sure. So star number 3, I will actually go with one Morgan Frost. I thought he had a really strong game again. Obviously, he only finishes with 1 assist, but I thought on the whole, Frost Tippett Konecny line, very clearly the Flyers' best line. It's rolling, and Morgan Frost is a huge part of that. He just continues to rack up the points. I believe now he's on a 6-game point streak, which is his career long, and it doesn't seem like there's really any signs of that point streak slowing down. He is involved. He is involved in the game at a level that I have never seen him be involved in games. Even the second half of last season when he was putting up points, there were a lot of those games where, like, he would get an assist and he would be like, oh, yeah, Frost got a couple points. But it was mostly like, well, he had like 4 good shifts and happened to get a point on one of those 4 shifts. This Morgan Frost that we're seeing right now, he is having an impact on almost all of his shifts. And I thought tonight was just another example of him playing a really strong all-around hockey game.
Let's hear it for star number 2.
Star number 2, I will go with one Tyson Forester. Obviously, that snipe of a shot, clutch goal, also picks up an assist on the TK power play goal. However, I'm fairly certain that was a whiffed shot. I do not think that was an intentional slap pass. But hey, sometimes you get the bounces. I was talking a little bit earlier about Konecny getting some bounces. That was a bounce that he took advantage of, a bounce from someone else, where I do not think Tyson Forester was looking to pass that, but a whiff shot turns into a perfect pass to him. What the hell? Forester came through when it counted. That's really what it boils down to. That was not an easy shot to make. He's got a defenseman on him. The stick's right there to try to deflect the shot. He works the angle, and then he just scorched that one. I mean, that was top corner, perfectly placed. And it reminds everyone that this guy was drafted in the first round because of his shot. Like, he was not drafted in the first round because the Flyers thought that he was going to be one of the best defensive forwards in hockey. The fact that he's been that this year, at least by the numbers, is freaking awesome. But that wasn't the reason why they took him in the late first round. They took him in the late first round because he's got a plus tool, and that tool is his shot. And tonight, he just reminded everybody that he can beat goalies clean. I mean, Linus Ullmark is a good goalie. Maybe he didn't have his best game of his career, but he is a damn good goalie. One of the reasons why Boston is so good is because they have 2 damn good goalies, and he's one of them. And Forester just beat him, overwhelmed him with a really, really good shot at the most pivotal moment of the game. For that reason, he's my second star. He easily could have been my first star, to be honest. It was close.
He won the Vezina last year. He's the reigning Vezina champ. Before star number 1, Charlie, K-Red super chat for $10. He says,
Hey-o.
Charlie is why I read BSH, why I subbed to The Athletic, and he's why I became a diehard. Bill isn't lying when he says he's the best. Been the best for some time now, too. Thank you very much, K-Red.
That's awesome.
Without
K-Red.
further ado, star number 1.
Star number 1 is Travis Konecny. And while I think you could certainly make a case for Tyson Forester being star number 1, you got to give it to the guy who had 2 goals, who led the team in ice time, or led the forwards in ice time with 1931. It's just cool to see Konecny getting back into form. You were starting to worry, and while I wasn't going as far as you were, Bill, in saying that he can't score in important games, I was worried a bit that we weren't going to see the really good version of Travis Konecny during the stretch run because, again, the injury and everything. I was getting a little concerned. What we've seen, I would say, over the last, let's say, 4 periods, because I didn't think he was very good in the first 2 periods against Carolina, but in the 3rd period against Carolina, and then in all 3 periods today, we are seeing the Travis Konecny who had us saying throughout pretty much the entirety of the year, he is the Flyers' best player. He is the Flyers' most dynamic offensive weapon, and he is the Flyers' best player. He's back to playing like the Flyers' best player. And, to get 2 goals in a big game like this against a really good goalie, it serves as a reminder of just how good Travis Konecny is. I think it's really cool he's hit 30 goals for the 2nd straight year. And there's still another 11 games. So I'm very excited to see what he ultimately finishes with. But Konecny, to me, he is the engine that makes this team go. He is. He is that guy. And is he going to make mistakes from time to time? Sure. Is he going to take some dumb penalties? Absolutely. But he's also going to do the things he did today against a really, really good team in Boston, where I wouldn't quite say he carried the Flyers to a win, but the Flyers don't win this game if Travis Konecny is still hurt. They don't. They don't come close. Travis Konecny was the difference maker in this game, and for that reason, he's my first star.
Those are Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars. Thank you very much to Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor. We'll get you out of here before the bidding continues, and we're stuck here all day, Chuck. Thanks a lot. We will. I'll talk to you post game tomorrow.
All right.
See
Bye,
you,
guys.
Charlie.
We all silly like the mayor.